with Donald Trump. Great to see you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you for having me. The most important question I have to ask you is, how about my ratings?
Your ratings are fabulous. I just saw you're now the king of late night.
Yes.
I mean, you're beating some very untalented people, to be honest with you, so I'm not so sure how great that is, but they are so bad, and it's about time somebody came in and you're really beating them badly. Great.
I feel kind of guilty about it because I feel like I'm beating up unarmed people.
Well, they're not very talented. You are, so congratulations.
I'm mildly talented. They're just untalented.
Well, and you're very different.
Yes, I am very different. Speaking of, do you remember how much I hated you for that brief period of time?
There was a period of time when you weren't a fan, and then you started noticing that things were getting done.
Yes.
And you said, you know, I may not like them, but look, we have a good economy, we have good military, we have good everything.
Right.
And then you started, and now I think, I don't know if it's love, but it's getting close, and we like it.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's love, but I would say it's admiration.
Well, thank you.
And also admitting that I was wrong because I was focusing on words and not deeds. And now we're at a time where, okay, there are no more mean tweets, and we have a really nice president, and the country is in the crapper. So who would you rather have?
Well, I don't know that he's a nice president. I'm not sure about that. But I can tell you the country has never been more unsafe. We have people pouring in through our southern border, which everyone's forgetting about right now because of the travesty of Afghanistan. And if you look at the people coming in by the hundreds, by the thousands, and these are not the people necessarily that wanted the protection.
Right.
These are people. So are they terrorists? How
Yes.
many terrorists are coming in? And they were aggressive, very aggressive at the plane, and they pushed their ways, their way onto the plane.
Why do you think that Democrats have such a problem with incentivization? Like if you introduce friction on the border, you reduce immigration.
Yeah.
They don't understand that. What is the problem with that? How can they cannot see that?
I really believe it's gross incompetence. And the only thing good for them about Afghanistan is it makes what they're doing on the border look good, because that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
We don't want a wall, we don't want this, we'll just let people come through. It's a disaster. The borders it was the safest border we've ever had, and now it's the worst.
What unites all of them is a lack of process. They do not understand process. We just want order. I want people to come into our country, but I want a line and a gate, people that can walk through.
Yeah, and legally. Legally vetted, strongly vetted.
Yeah.
But when you think that they moved the military out first, think of this, because we had a great plan.
Backwards.
Even Biden, I think he made a mistake when they did it. They were all screaming at him. But when he said that since President Trump, or he calls it the past administration, signed the deal, not one soldier was shot at or killed. Think of that. You know why? Because they knew the consequences. And our conditions were tough. And then they came in and they just moved out. Who would move out the military first? The military goes last and safely. And sadly, those 13 great soldiers and 200 people, 200 people, more than 200 people were killed, and a lot of people are badly injured, really badly injured. It wouldn't have happened.
Do you think it is better to be feared, right? And that's the difference. They don't fear our president.
Well, I don't know if he just doesn't seem like they know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a question. I don't even think it's a question of fear. It's a question of respect, and it's a question of being smart. When you hear, I could just say, because I dealt with Abdul.
Right.
Let's call him Abdul, but that's the man.
Yes.
And he's now the head of the Taliban, and he was the head of the Taliban when I dealt with him. And I started it off very tough because, you're going to pay tremendous consequences. I don't have to go the level of toughness, but it was bad. And they understood what I said. And there was no way they were going to do anything to us. We could have taken our time. We could have taken a year, 2 years. But to leave $85 billion worth of equipment, for them to fly around Apache helicopters. So this is the greatest war machine outside of the submarine. This is the greatest war machine there is, the Apache.
Right.
They're very, very, tens of millions of dollars. They have 28 of them.
Yes.
That's more than any other country in the world has, except for us.
I can't even get a gun in New York.
Yeah.
If I joined the Taliban, I could have gotten a helicopter.
No problem.
Yes.
In fact, I saw that the other day. We can't have guns, but the Taliban, they can have 27 each.
I could have a helicopter that would get me to the Hamptons and back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. I thought that's only part one. That's only part one. But for more, let's get immediate feedback from the media on that amazing part one interview.
Gene Nelson reports with Gene Nelson.
Mr. Gutfeld, first off, I just have to say, that was probably the hardest hitting interview of a president I have ever seen.
Thanks for that. What's your name?
Gene.
Well, Jim, it was really a lot of fun. I learned a lot, but it's only part one. I have 4 more parts of that interview to go.
Hard to believe it gets any better, because what I saw took no prisoners.
Yes, it did take no prisoners, and it also looks like it might have captured your heart.
It did. I live right around the corner if you want to get out of here.
Why did you say so in the first place? I'll drink the water.
Now, the meeting of the minds, part 2.
All right, why should I say a thing? Let's just get to round 2. I want to ask you a question about COVID, because you had COVID. And my wife, you met my wife, I don't know, it was like 6 years ago in Mar-a-Lago. She's still not gotten vaccinated. And I keep talking to her to get her to get vaccinated, and she hasn't. What would you say to her?
Well, first of all, I'd say, why is she not doing it? Does she have some kind of religious thing?
No, skeptical. She's skeptical, doesn't trust.
Well, she's Russian.
Yes, she's Russian.
That's the end of that.
Exactly. You can't argue with the Russian.
No. Very smart.
Yeah.
And very hard-headed.
Yes.
I think I know your wife a little bit, right?
Yes.
But she's great, and let her do what she wants to do. I got vaccinated, and I feel very good. I think we saved millions and millions of people worldwide. In 1917, they say almost 100 million, approximately 100 million people died.
Yeah.
I think we could have been into that situation because it was very bad. And now, if you're vaccinated, the other thing it shows that if you do get sick, you don't get sick like they were before, meaning you don't die.
Exactly.
So I would recommend, but I also say that let her have her freedoms. You know the word freedom, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And with you, she needs freedom.
She needs a lot of freedom from me, I found.
Yeah, right. I think I probably have to agree with that.
Oh, here's a question. I bet no one's ever asked you this. I think I might know the answer. How hard is it being president from a scale to 1 to 10?
Well, I had 2 forms of presidency. Number one, I had to run the country, work on the world, and do things. And the other thing, I had to survive.
Yeah.
The survival was much tougher because I had fake Mueller people coming after me. I had 19 really haters after me. I had every form of law enforcement after me. It started from the day I came down the escalator. It never stops. I have every prosecutor after me. They're looking at deals that I did years and years ago. I forgot about them. It is a disgrace. So I had to survive, number one. And number two, I had to write, really, I guess I'd put it in a different order. But if you don't survive, you can't do a good job in terms of running. So I had survival and I had running the country.
Right.
And I would say the survival was actually much tougher, running the country. Somebody said, what was the toughest president? A friend of mine, very, very successful guy, used to call me Don, Donnie, Donald. Now he said, Mr. President, you lose all your friends because you're president. They're all afraid to talk to you, okay? Mr. President, could I ask you one question? Who was the toughest to deal with? Was it China? Could it be Putin in Russia? What about North Korea, Kim Jong-un? I said, well, the toughest actually was the United States, dealing with these maniacs that we have over here, with Pelosi and Schumer and all of them. That was probably the toughest, far tougher than a lot of world leaders. And isn't that a shame when you think about it? Isn't it a shame?
Well, there was an irrational response to you, and I lost friends when I would defend you.
But you also gained friends.
Yeah, you gained friends. I didn't listen to my family members who were voting for you during the time, and I had friends who were voting for you, but I didn't listen. And then when I turned and started listening, then I lost all of my other friends. Did it bother you to see friends that you've had lose these friends because you became president and they didn't like what you were doing, or they became emotionally and irrationally kind of unhinged? Trump delusional.
Sure, right. Trump.
Derangement syndrome.
They call him a lot of things, but derangement syndrome seems, and there is something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And why would they do that? We rebuilt the military. We took care of everything. We came up whether you say vaccines or
Yeah.
helping people medically, right to try, where they were able to try somebody dying,
Yeah.
and we have drugs that might work and you
But
couldn't use them.
None of that mattered because
none of
it was an emotional response.
Taxes, by the
Yeah.
way, regulations, the largest tax cut in history, largest regulation cut by far in history, all records.
But why did people respond emotionally to you rather than rationally?
It must be my personality. That's what I can think. I mean, we did a great job. I rebuilt the military.
Yes.
All that beautiful stuff, that brand new stuff. And you know who has it now?
Yeah.
Huh? The
Yeah.
Taliban.
Taliban.
I built it for the Taliban.
Exactly.
It wasn't supposed to happen. And now we see these beautiful, perfect, brand new rifles, and these guys are carrying two.
Yes.
And they're wearing our uniforms.
I know.
And they're flying our helicopters. And it's a disgrace.
You know what? We might have converted them because it's like Christmas to them.
Yeah, well, it is Christmas.
It is Christmas.
They're still celebrating.
Yes.
Okay, so I told you about Abdul. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
tough. And when I first spoke to him by phone, I said, "Nice to speak to you by phone, Abdul." And he goes, "Ah." They're ferocious people.
Right.
Like you go to Broadway shows, they fight. They
Yeah.
like to fight. They've been fighting for about 1,000 years. How we
I
got
hate
it.
Broadway.
By the way, I say that you do. I like it, actually. It's very interesting, and I've been saying it for a long time. Our country, the worst decision ever made was going into the quicksand, which is called the Middle East.
Right.
$2 trillion and millions of lives, because I like to count both sides, okay?
Right.
Millions of lives, and the place has been obliterated. And it's more dangerous now, if you think about it. I had them in check. I wiped out ISIS. You know who I took out? I took out the leaders, the biggest people,
Saw
bigger
me as
than
well.
anybody. Nobody even believes what I did. And in a few months, it can all be dissipated.
Yes, all right. Like I said, we're going to ask you about Hunter Biden's new profession. Have you seen any of his paintings?
No, I haven't seen him. I've seen, some newspaper shots of him.
Could you imagine if that was your
Don
son?
Jr. Don Jr. has decided to go into painting. Well, he's never painted before. He wants $500,000 a shot. And you know what? They don't even go after him.
No. And he paints with a straw, which is a new use for a straw for him.
Yeah. When I heard that one, I said, this one will never. This one, even the fake news media will not allow. He's selling these paintings for a fortune.
Yeah.
If my kids ever did that, they could do good things.
Yes.
I have a son raised $20 million for St. Jude's, and he was under 2 years of investigation, and he got nothing out of it. Nothing. 2 years of investigation, he raised $20 million. I got the most beautiful letter from the head of St. Jude's that this young man, I won't even say which one of my kids, because why should I?
It'd be great if Don Jr. or Eric started selling sketches and giving the money to like drug addiction programs. Just like some really primitive sketches before Hunter ever sells a painting.
Well, and this was during, if you go during the presidency to do this, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
But I think the paintings are the least of it.
Yeah.
You know that.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned paint, that's the least of it.
Well, there's the gun violations and
Well.
there's a load of other things too.
You know what? We had a much softer Justice Department, and let's say that they didn't like doing that. And I understand that too. I don't want to see a family in trouble.
Yeah.
And he's got some difficulties, which are very serious difficulties in terms of what happened to him with abuse, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll tell you what, you can't do it to Republicans. And I say to some of the Republicans, especially the rhinos, because we have some very stupid Republicans also.
Yeah.
I say, don't you sometimes have to fight fire with fire?
What are your plans for 2024?
So I love our country. I think you'll be very happy. I would say this 2-3 years ago, you might not have been that happy, but now I think you'd be very happy. I think especially when you see what's happening, you'll be happy. No, I'll make a decision in the not too distant future, but I love our country, and I think a lot of people are going to be very happy. And if you look at the poll numbers, I certainly like that, because it's, we got one the other day, 98% approval rating in the Republican Party. Reagan had 87. We have a 98% approval rating, and that makes me feel good. It makes me feel appreciated, not like a guy like you that can be critical in the past, only in the past.
All right, so I have to ask you: do you miss Twitter at all? Do you tweet in your head? Like because you're not on there anymore?
Well, a lot of people think Twitter was bad for me. I disagree. I think it was good for me. Twitter's become a very boring place. As I understand, I don't want to be like bragging or anything, but people are saying it's become very boring.
No, you made that. You made the site.
When I went onto Twitter like 12 years ago, Twitter was a failed operation. And it became successful, and a lot of people said I had a lot to do with it. When they took me off, I had way over 100 million people. And then if you add Facebook and everything else, it's over 200 million people. That's a lot. You go from 200 million people to nothing overnight. What I do now is I have Save America, and I release things, and I'm getting tremendous play. And we're suing Twitter, Facebook, Google. We're suing them all. A class action suit. Anybody wants to join, please join. Feel free. But we're suing them, and I think it's a great lawsuit. These people are sick. Zuckerberg used to come, the lock boxes, which I call the unlock boxes, because they unlock. So the unlock boxes all over the place. But he used to come to the White House to kiss my ass. And I'd say, oh, that's nice. I have the head of Facebook coming with his lovely wife, and they'd come and they'd have dinner with me in the White House. And then you see what they do about me and about Republicans, and it's just sort of crazy. But that's the way the world works.
When you are watching how the media treats Joe Biden, this is such an obvious question, but it's worth bringing up. There's always a game that we play on the 5. It's like, imagine if it's Trump. If you look at the certain things that, like Joe Biden leaving behind Afghan translators. If it were you, you would be called a racist. Correct? Because they are.
And they'd be impeaching me.
They would be impeaching you.
For many, many different.
And now you have this phone call, right? This phone call that he made to the Afghan president, asking him to lie.
Yeah.
Right. So that is not a perfect phone call.
No, that is not. My call was a perfect call.
So how does the psychology of this work? How do they square that in their head, knowing what they did before? And I'm talking about the media.
My call, when I heard there was we sent it to the Justice Department.
Yeah.
These guys, I didn't know who they were. They were a certain division. And they called back and they said, we've read this transcript 3 or 4 times. What exactly are you looking for? These are guys that are looking at drug deals and all sorts of bad stuff. They're going, what is it you are looking for? They couldn't figure it out. It was a perfect call. When you watch this call, this was not a good call.
No.
This was not a good call.
No, he was asking him to lie in order to make it look better. Maybe to make himself look better or politically whatever. But it was
But I've been calling Ghani a crook for a long time.
He left with how much money?
He walked away with $200 million.
Yeah.
In fact, he couldn't get it all into the helicopter. They left a lot of it on the runway. Do you think some people at the airport were happy?
It just kills me.
And you don't even hear that story. You don't even hear that story.
No, you don't.
And you don't hear that much about Afghanistan anymore. I watch the evening news, and they talk about everything they can, but they don't like to talk about Afghanistan.
All right, that was.
And now, the meeting of the minds, part 4.
When they see that Antifa is not prosecuted, and they kill people in Portland and Seattle and all these other places, they take over a large portion of Seattle.
Yeah.
People die. They walk in and beat the hell out of the store owners, and they take it over. And if I didn't send in, I was getting ready to send in the National Guard and maybe the military. And they heard that, and all of a sudden they left. It's an amazing thing. Same thing in Minnesota. When
mostly peaceful.
Always peaceful. You ever see peaceful? How about the
Summer of Love, they called it.
How about the CNN reporter saying, this is a peaceful protest, and then you look behind him, the entire city is burning down. Did you ever see that?
No, it's classic.
This is peaceful, and we appreciate the peace. And rocks are being thrown at the guy. It is so.
And they deny the rising crime that's going on because of the defunding of the police ideology and the demoralization of the cops. And none of the networks are covering it except for Fox.
They don't prosecute murderers, killers. A guy killed an old woman, a grandmother, the other day. They don't even talk about it. They only go after Republicans. It's true. The prosecutors. They only go after Republicans. What people are getting away with in New York, what they're getting away with in Chicago. I mean, look at Chicago, where they say 113 people were shot at and 28 died.
Yeah.
That's worse than Afghanistan was.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. We didn't lose, I told you, a soldier in many, many months. And here they have 28 people died over a weekend.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace what's going on.
Yeah, Taliban has finally made Afghanistan as dangerous as Chicago. One problem with you running for president again is that you're going to save CNN. You are aware of that.
That's a problem.
Yes, it is a problem.
I'm very proud of what I've done for them. You know, they're down 81%.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, maybe lately with all of this crazy things that are happening, but maybe not, because they don't like to cover Afghanistan.
Right.
And, you know, they're torn.
Yeah.
Because if they cover it, they'll get higher ratings, but they don't want to cover it because it's bad for the radical left Democrats. Right. And they're doing that to protect some of the most incompetent people in the history of politics in terms of office. They're good at getting there. Once they get there, everything turns sour. I won't use the same word I used in Alabama at the rally. But woke. Everything turns bad.
What, you know, was the woke a response to you? Because you had the politically correct. You come in, you point out how screwed up the politically correct is, and then there's just something worse, more pernicious, which is this woke movement, which is basically saying that America is endemically racist.
I don't know. Even the women's soccer team, the woman with the purple hair, she wasn't a fan of mine. She said negative things, and then she lost.
Yes.
Because woke means you're a loser.
Right.
Everybody ultimately loses with woke. And I'll tell you, I'm watching parents in Virginia and parents, they're tired of it. They don't want it. They're finally getting it. The school boards, they're throwing these maniacs out, and it's been great to watch.
Yeah, because it used to be in campuses, now it's in high schools, critical race theory, being taught in grade schools and stuff, and now parents are finally engaged in showing up. And that's kind of new. Don't you think? It's new.
I ended it in the military.
Yeah.
But as soon as they came in, they put it back in.
Well,
we had guys got paid $444,000 to teach critical race theory and wokeism, okay? To teach it.
Right.
I said, boy, they're highly paid. First I said they're highly paid. Then I said, wait, much more importantly, they're teaching this stuff.
Right.
And, you know, look, Millie never talked to me about that. I knew military.
Yeah.
You know, I knew him from the military. He never was like that.
Yeah.
And he changed because ultimately he was a politician. And I guess he figured he was going to do better with the current people. And isn't that the worst kind of a general?
Do you think Joe's going to last the first term? And do you think Kamala Harris is going to be stepping in?
I don't know. It's probably not appropriate for me to comment on that. But I don't know. I think that when I see a man say a few words, not necessarily well, and then turn around and walk
away.
Somebody said he has really nice hair in the front, but I see him walk away. He never answers a question.
Yeah, just leaves.
And they're soft questions. And when he did answer them, I remember during the campaign, you know, they're screaming, "Why do you think of this? What do you think of that?" The maniacs. And I think that one of the, I don't know, maybe I don't get credit for it, maybe I do. Fake news was a great term. People say, what was your favorite? I think fake news, nobody had any idea how fake it was. But when you watch them ask him a question, and then you see him read the answer off the teleprompter, that means he knows what's going on. I mean, and he'll call, let's see, they told me to ask so-and-so to ask a question.
Yeah.
It's so sad for our country. You know, I got to know Putin and President Xi of China and Kim Jong-un and all of them very well. They're at the top of their game. When they see the scene at the meetings that they've had where his wife, who's lovely, is screaming, "Come here, Joe. Come here, Joe. Joe, come here," you know, etc. That's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But when they see that, I can't imagine they're inspired.
All right. Up next, the real identity of a fast food entity.
And now, the meeting of the minds, part 5.
Behold the final chapter of my glorious interview with former President Donald Trump. How about the Wuhan lab? You were ahead of the game on that one.
I was right about hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah.
Remember that? Now, had I said do not use under any circumstances,
Everybody would do it.
My mistake with the wall. So it took me 2.5 years to start building because I had lawsuits. I had 11 lawsuits, mostly by Congress, Nancy Pelosi and the group Crazy Nancy. So mostly by Congress. It took me 2.5 years to get started. You weren't allowed to start. You had all sorts of restraining. I won all of them. I start building the wall. I mean, think of it. They go out and they say, walls don't work. And I always say, the only two things that work, and they always will, are the wheel and the wall. That wall had such an impact. But we've done a great job, and I think we're given a lot of credit for it. And I think, frankly, now were given much more credit than I was when I was there because they see how bad it's been. We had secure borders. You know, one of the things we talk about, the people coming in, well, they couldn't come in very easily. But, and the whole, I mean, all the different rules, regulations that made it. But one of the things I stopped is fentanyl to a large extent.
Right.
I had it down 81%. That's a tremendous amount.
It's incredible.
Now it's triple, quadruple what
Yeah.
it ever was, and it is the worst drug of all.
Yeah, and they're finding it everywhere. It used to just be on street drug. Now it's in cocaine. You know, I've changed my lifestyle.
It's everywhere. You can no longer take anything.
Exactly.
You can't have a,
I'm
hey,
really,
you can't
really
have
careful.
a hamburger. You can't have a hamburger anymore.
Exactly.
True.
But I will, you know, to your point, fake news is one of the most important phrases of this generation.
I think so.
Because generally people complained about bias when they were in their home watching TV. But it was the first time somebody on TV was saying it to them, saying this is fake.
Nobody ever said
Yeah.
it. And, you know, I'm sure they won't give me, they'll say, in 1929, somebody used the term. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a great term.
Yeah.
It was so accurate.
It's stuck.
No, it's stuck. It's stuck.
stuck.
It took, you know
It's
how
not
long-
going away.
Hey, you know how long it took? And now I watch CNN saying, fake news has reported. You know, they're saying
Yeah.
about the other side. It's not working. But I will say, it stuck. And you know how long it took to stick? About 24 hours.
Exactly.
It was there.
That's
It was-
amazing. Amazing. Mr. President, there's a man over there looking at me. I wonder if that means time's up.
I don't know, but we can do another one. No, I have to say, I really enjoy your show. I enjoy you. I know you're a funny guy and all that, but you're a very serious guy, actually. You get it. You get it. And I think that's why your show's doing so well. And I kept saying, why can't these other people be beaten? They're horrible. I know them all.
Yeah.
Why can't they be beaten? And Jimmy Fallon, I watched him. He was so, remember with the hair?
Yeah, he was having a good time until his friends came after
He
him.
was having a good time.
Yeah.
He said, can I touch your hair? And I said, I'd rather have you not, but if you want, and he starts messing it up. He said, it is your hair. And, okay, all of this. And then what happens? They go after him. And then he apologized.
He apologized.
And by the way, he got great ratings. It was
Yeah.
great.
He's never been the same.
And it's never been the same.
It's never been the same because once you feed the crocodile and apologize, they come after you. He lost so much respect. If he just stuck to his guns instead of he lost his
highest rated show.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing it. They did commercials at the beginning. And then they went after him.
It's like SNL.
They said they humanized me.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
humanized
How
me
dare you?
by doing it. How dare you do that?
Yeah.
You've humanized him. Do you
Yeah.
know what you've done?
Yeah.
And instead of saying, hey, I got the biggest ratings, the show is doing great. His show was doing great.
Yeah.
Instead, and he was always a nice guy. I always thought he was a nice guy. Instead, he apologized.
And they're
He looked like such a fool.
And they're not funny.
No, they're not.
They're not funny. They replaced humor with anger and what's called clapter. They want people to clap about their opinions and not their jokes.
The other one used to treat me, ABC.
Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
He used to, I did a show many times before I was doing this.
Yeah.
He used to greet me on the sidewalk. He used to wait for me, nobody else.
Yeah.
This is before I was a politician.
Yeah.
Can you believe I said I was a politician? I hate to say that, but listen, he used to, Jimmy Kimmel, wait for me outside his studio in Los Angeles, very crowded street. When I came, he kissed my ass all the way in. And then what happens? I run, and all of a sudden I'm like this horrible guy. This guy, go back to his old shows.
The Man Show?
He treated me, he was nervous to talk to me.
Yeah.
He'd meet me at the car.
Yeah.
I think he might have even opened my door. You want another thing? And now it's different. So it's one of those things, you know. It's very interesting. I went into a big event, and our great former First Lady, who really did, the people love her. We love our First Lady, the signs. But she said, I've never heard anybody boo for you. I had just announced. And I said, well, that's politics. She said, yeah, but all the years we've been together, nobody ever booed. And now there were some people cheering like crazy and some people booing.
Right.
I said, well, that's what happens when you go into politics. It is true.
Yeah.
But
people pick sides.
Those late night guys are terrible, and you have done the country such a service by gobbling up those ratings that I congratulate you. You've done a great thing.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. That means a lot. And thank you for doing this interview.
Well,
This has been a blast.
It's been a lot of fun. We'll do it again.
Definitely. Yeah, and that concludes our mini-series with former President Trump. Coming up, Facebook and Ray-Ban go all in, spying like Joseph Stalin.